case you're new to my channel, my name is Appa, and this is the episode 7 of my nursing series, which I just recently started. By the way, I hope you guys had a great Christmas break. I know I did, but I definitely know that I have gained some weight, so I need to definitely go back to the gym. I want to talk about today is the interview aspect of these graduate entry programs. January to April is when these interviews usually occur. So I did interview for 3 different schools. 2 of them were over the phone or like via Skype, and the other one was over in person. So I did have to travel for that one. So basically, one of the first things that you probably already know about programs like this is or any interview honestly is obviously, you know, a business casual outfit with minimum makeup, obviously not the type of makeup that I'm wearing today, and minimum perfume and all of that. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about my group interview first. Like I said, 3 interviews in total. So I interviewed at the University of Illinois. They have a graduate entry program. I did not interview at their what is it called? The Chicago campus, but the Urbana campus is where I interviewed at, you know, but I obviously rejected their offer. I did get admitted to this school. So a lot of people in this interview, they were actually all females. I don't know how many group interviews they did. I think ours was like the 3rd group. So they did have applicants, but not as many as some of the other popular schools. And basically they were all females. A lot of them did attend University of Illinois. Some went to the Chicago campus and some went to the Urbana one. And I believe, from my understanding, I was like the only person who was not from that area or had been to that school. So yeah, I just was there a little bit early and I waited for a little bit, and I actually did not know that it was going to be a group interview. I had no idea that that's what was going to happen. And then I was like, oh shoot, this is a group interview. This might actually be kind of worse than a personal interview. But honestly, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. So there were 5 or 6 of us, and we all kind of sat, you know, around a chair, and there were 3 interviewers. I believe there were 2 interviewers. One of them was a PhD nursing person, and she was an ER nurse, and her main focus was research and also teaching. And the other person was a pediatric nurse practitioner. And it was really interesting. They were super friendly. And honestly, you guys, a lot of the questions were the questions that they asked like in the personal statement, which was really, really convenient because I did look over the personal statement like over and over again. And that's pretty much how it went. So basically, they started off from the left side, and I was sitting on the right side, your left, but my right. And I was the last person to answer the questions, which was kind of nice in a way because I could like get, you know, think a little bit about my response rather than the other person who went first, who would have to like answer immediately. So not all of us were interested in becoming nurse practitioners. I believe there were 2 other people. One was interested in peds and the other one was interested in psych. So, and I was interested in family. And the other 2 just wanted to, I think, do generalist nursing. And do maybe like a PhD route rather than like the nurse practitioner route. Basically, they kind of just asked me a lot of questions on like how I would contribute as a nursing student to diversity, to the mission statement. And their mission statement, if you guys are applying to that school, you're just gonna have to go look at it, because I haven't looked at it for a really long time. And from what I remember, it was like a lot to do with diversity. So I would highly recommend that you go check some of the mission statements out for some of these schools that you're applying to. And they asked some nursing specific questions, one of them being, what is one of the major problems in nursing, and why, or sorry, healthcare, I should say, not just nursing, and why is there a necessity for students to go pursue a master's degree, which I kind of already talked a little bit about in my personal statement episode, which is my previous episode of this series. And it's, like, because we're serving a complex population, it's important that nurses are approaching graduate education, because I'm like saying that completely wrong. Not approaching, but pursuing graduate education, because as healthcare is growing and more people are coming to the United States as immigrants, healthcare is becoming more complex. So in order to understand a complex system, you have to go, pursue a graduate degree. That is kind of how I worded it. Not everyone had that answer, but that's how I worded it. And basically, they just kind of asked us about our individual interests. And I talked about a little bit about my ER experience, which was like the key for me. And to be honest, like, it really was the key for me in order to get into nursing, or think about nursing in the first place. So I did talk a lot about my internship from the emergency room, which I did do for like a really long time. So that was my experience. Some of these other girls, they had experienced like more office-like experience. I did not have like an office-like experience. Yeah, in a dietitian's office, but not all of them had like hospital exposure. I think it's just important to get whatever experience is like around you. I would prefer, it would be nicer to get more of a hospital experience, because that's where a lot of nurses work, is hospitals. I mean, yeah, you do, if like you're an advanced practitioner, then you do work in primary care, but advanced practitioners also work in hospital settings, and that's what I plan on doing. So I would highly recommend that if you are able to get hospital experience, please go get it. But if you don't have that type of opportunity, go ahead and work in a doctor's office. That might help you. It went on okay. It was approximately 30 minutes, and some of the questions, you guys, they were very, very direct, and you didn't really have to think a lot, to be honest. And I feel like if any of you guys are like interested in this field, you should be able to answer those questions. And basically, it was just like, they didn't really ask me as much question about like scholarship and funding and stuff, which some of the other schools that I applied to did. So I think with University of Illinois, they're just so open to international students that they will probably even give you scholarship for this program. I'm not quite sure about that. Or not just international, but like local students as well, because they're like super big on diversity. So I think they do give you some sort of scholarship, federal or whatever the different kinds are. So yeah, that was it with University of Illinois. They were all very, very friendly. And then I did talk a little bit about my research, which was and they had no clue what that research was about, but which is rather complicated, and I'm not gonna go too much in detail about it. I talked a little bit more about like what leadership roles I have had in undergrad, which I did. Like I was like a student ambassador, which basically means like you work at the admissions office and you promote the college. And I did that for a year, and I also like worked during the summer, like to call international students and also local students to come attend my university. So basically the call team, I did that for a little bit. So those were some of like the leadership roles I had in undergrad. So I just talked all basically about my resume, and it was just really straightforward, you guys. Honestly, I was a little bit stressed out because I drove to Champaign from Indiana, and it took about like 3.5 hours, and I went with a friend. But at the end of the day, I was kind of glad that I did, because kind of helped me get out of the state a little bit more, helped me see the campus a little bit more. And then the interview was done, and then we just went to a buffet, we had food, and then we left. So I was really, really glad that, I went for it. Okay, so moving on to my second interview, which was at the school that I'm attending right now here in Cleveland, Ohio. So this was, okay, I honestly had just submitted my application for this one. Was I routing for this one that I'm attending right now? Not necessarily, because at that time I was like obsessed with going to Wisconsin. And I can see why I was obsessed, but I really wanted to go there. It was a Catholic school, Marquette. You guys might have heard about it, but I got rejected from them. They did not have an interview process. So whatever, I'm actually in a pretty decent school right now, so I don't really have, any regrets, honestly. But the location definitely would have suited me a little bit more in Milwaukee, honestly. But it's okay. You just have to compromise with whatever you kind of have when it comes to like grad school. So this one, I honestly, truly was not expecting to get an interview call. I thought I was going to have to turn in a GRE score, because before they made the GRE as a waiver, before they waived the GRE for the certain GPA requirement, they used to require you to have GRE regardless. So they removed that requirement, and I was a little bit like, oh, okay, and that's pretty good, and they got a lot of, obviously there's like 30 people. No, there's more than 30 people. There's like 38 people in my program right now, and they're all from like different parts of the country as well. A lot of people from California, and they don't like the Midwest. I love the Midwest, but they don't like the Midwest. Anyways, so a lot of students came here, and from different parts of the country. I interviewed with this school over the phone because it was snowing, and I was like, I am not driving in snow. And this was back in March, I believe. March or April, somewhere around that. And yeah, I just wasn't gonna drive like 3.5 hours to Cleveland, during snow time. Like, that's just a lot of snow. It was a lot of snow, you guys. So I interviewed over the phone, and you guys, I was like, at that point, I was just, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was seriously thinking that I was gonna have to take another year to apply to these programs, because I was just not hearing good news. Like, I got rejected from Marquette, and I got rejected from Seattle, and then I got this interview. Well, I interviewed for the University of Illinois, and then I got an interview call from this other school that I currently attend now. And I was just like in shock a little bit. And yeah, a lot of things were very straightforward. There was no Skype call. This was over the phone, and it was approximately 30 minutes long. So I didn't have to, like get ready and all that, because I wasn't gonna see them in person. And again, literally she said, why do you want to be an advanced nurse, or like a nurse practitioner? Because it was more like, this one was more like a conversation rather than an interview. And she's actually one of my professors now, and she basically just asked me like, what makes you consider nursing, or graduate nursing more specifically. A lot of questions again from like the personal statement, which was 1 page long, and I did talk about that in my other episode. And just a lot of same questions, like why nursing, and why graduate nursing, and what is the event which led to it. And again, she also kind of focused a little bit more on the hospital experience. She asked me a little bit more detail about that, and then she asked me a question, like a professional question of like, how would your coworkers describe you, or something, which the other school did not ask me that. And like, what are some qualities you would like describe yourself to be like? So kind of like a work interview type as well. And then she also asked me what my support system was, and I did mention like my family, because obviously like that's reality. They are my support system, and always will be my support system. And yeah, and then like she asked me if I had questions for her, and I asked her like a little bit more questions about like CPR and all of that, like getting certified, and financial questions. And overall, the interview went well. It was approximately 30 minutes. I did not feel like I was being interrogated as much, which I will talk about in a little bit for my third interview, because that one, I don't know about that one. Anyways, so I was really happy with this. And like I said, this school is very focused on, this was more focused on like NP. That's their personal statement. Like, they literally ask you, why do you want to be a graduate or advanced practice nurse, or something like that. So yeah, it just is gonna depend on the school, you guys. Some schools are more open than the others. And then she also had some questions about like research, because my school does focus a little bit on research. And I talked a little bit more about the research experience I've had, even though it was more lab research. Like, I said that like I would be more interested in doing research to improve clinical outcomes. Say that one. Promise you will get in, because that's something that they're really, really looking for you to say, is to do research to improve clinical outcomes. And because that's what healthcare is all about, is improving clinical outcomes. So I would highly recommend that you say that. And yeah, that went pretty well. Nothing crazy. And then right after I was done with it, like, I called my mom immediately, and I was like, Mom, the interview went well. I think I might have a shot at this school. So the third one was this school where actually so the third interview happened by the time I had already gotten accepted at the school that I attend, and also University of Illinois. Basically, this other school, I don't even remember their name. It's somewhere in New Jersey. It's in a smaller town than Cleveland, but I wasn't really as keen on like moving all the way to New Jersey, so I was just like, I'm just gonna apply, see what happens, and if anything good happens, then okay. I will just say that, hey, I got accepted into another school. But I was kind of set on like the school that I'm attending by this point. And yeah, I was just like, well, I already got into a school which is an NP focused one. I'm not going to worry about this one as much. So I didn't really prepare or anything for this one. And you guys, this was like the worst interview that I had. Like, it just was not very good overall. And I honestly thought I was gonna get rejected. So I guess this was a clinical nurse leader focus one, and they just kind of they really were just like, oh, you know, we don't really accept international students or like students out of state. And I'm just going like, okay, like what? Like, they literally just said, like, they were kind of just making, they didn't say that to me directly, but they were kind of just saying like, oh, how do you feel about moving to the New York, New Jersey area? You know, moving from the Midwest is going to be a lot, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, a lot of people move for graduate entry programs. Like, why are you making such a big deal about it? And I just was like, okay, like, this is a little awkward, but I'm just gonna continue going on with it. And I just, you know, kind of made it like, I have moved a lot. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. I just made it seem a little bit like easier than, you know, in reality, it's not really that easy. But I kind of was still confident. Like, I was like, so what? Like, so what? It's just moving. And a lot of grad students, like, move, you know? So I just was like, why are they being so weird? Anyways, and I guess they asked me to explain to them what a clinical nurse leader was. And I kind of just said, a bedside RN who focuses on improving clinical outcomes and, you know, does a little bit of administrative work, and also oversees other nurses. And then they were like, oh, you got the definition wrong. And then they kind of explained to me what it was. And then I asked them, like, can I go for like further specialization after like this graduate entry portion? Like, can I apply to other programs? And they were like, yeah, you can. We accept international students, blah, blah, blah. But again, you guys, I was honestly just doing them a favor, just interviewing them. They probably don't even get that many applicants to begin with. And I just interviewed for the sake of interviewing, but I had already, like I said, gotten accepted at 2 other schools, which were more of a preference for me. So at that point, I was just kind of like, it's not even worth fussing about it. And then surprisingly, like a week later, they sent me an acceptance letter in the mail. So I don't exactly know what happened with that one, but they just did not seem very open about it. And the director of the program interviewed me along with like some other person. But honestly, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm done with the whole interview thing. I'm actually in a decent program. I don't like the location, which is fine. I can stick it out for the next 3 years, and then eventually I will have the freedom of where I want to live and stuff. So that was pretty much it, you guys. Those were 3 of my interviews, and I hope this was somewhat helpful to like talk through it. And I know interviews are very stressful, but you just gotta go in. You just gotta go in there, and you just have to seem like, you know, you don't seem overconfident, but you do need to seem confident enough that you know what this whole career is about. You know, you are not someone who is 18 years old and you're getting into this new profession. It's not the same. A lot of you guys who are watching this video, like, you have life experiences, you have a college degree. So I honestly wouldn't fuss too much about freaking out when it comes to like interviewing. This is one of the more important aspects of getting into grad school. But those were my experiences, you guys. Again, 3 interviews in total. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I know that someone has requested me to do like a video on finances. I will get to that, I promise you. I just have to interview a couple of people in my program and help you a little bit with the financing aspect of graduate entry nursing programs. Thank you so much for watching, and talk to you guys later. Bye.